Hey, how's it? It's been a while since I've made one of these, but I'm very excited today to speak about the SnowPeak PR900 Gen2. Now, full disclosure, when I phoned a mate of mine, Ian, at SA Air Rifles about 2 months ago, and I asked him, you know, what is the best rifle for children to shoot at our range? And maybe ladies as well. What is the best rifle to shoot? And Ian said it has to be the PR900 Gen2. I was immediately discomfortable. I didn't like that idea at all. I mean, any company that has, or any rifle company that has Miss in their name and then change that name to Snowflake doesn't instill any level of confidence in me. But it turns out that I owe SnowPeak an apology. So this is my official apology. I'm sorry. Now, with that out of the way, let's speak about this rifle in a bit more detail. Now, the first thing that we obviously need to speak about is the fact that this has only got a 100cc cylinder that can be filled to about 200 bar. Now, I put this through the Chrony, and depending on how close you get to the red line on a manometer, you get probably about 15, maybe 20 shots through the regulator. But as you can see in the chronograph detail, I think this regulator, which cannot be adjusted, by the way, probably is configured at about 150 or 140 bar, which means as soon as you reach that 150, 140 bar, the pellets just fall off the scale. You'll literally see, I'd say there's probably about 35 to 40 usable shots, but thereafter, as soon as you sort of go below a quarter of that green line, it just falls off the chart. So you'll actually see that in the chronograph detail. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to go through in more detail. So obviously this has got a very nice filling probe that you can just push in, very simple for kids and ladies to use. And the rifle actually comes with that filling probe. The thing that I didn't like about that filling probe is that if you are buying a brand new cylinder, for example, to fill this rifle with, it needs that female foster connection. And this doesn't come with that female foster connection. So if you buy a new cylinder, you have to make sure that it actually comes with that coupling. Otherwise, you've got nothing to put that full probe in. So that's quite important to mention at this point in time as well. Now, my biggest bugbear with this specific rifle is the fact that the manometer sits in the front of the cylinder. Now, normally that wouldn't be an issue, but if I look at the target market for this specific rifle, which is children and ladies, the fact that I have to go and put my face in front of the manometer and in front of the barrel to see whether I can still shoot those 20 shots through the regulator or not, I think is a big mistake on this rifle. I mean, obviously you need to teach the kids and the adults about safety and gun safety and making sure that the safety is on before you actually start looking at the rifle and all of that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is that accidents happen, and I don't think that this was the brightest idea, to be honest. Now, if we look at the rest of the rifle, I've just mentioned that the regulator is not adjustable, and I also don't have a hammer spring that can be adjusted. So, the sort of 800 feet per second that I got with the H&N 15s, that's pretty much where you're at. And it's extremely accurate in relation to the documentation that SnowPeak provided as well. That's exactly where they said the rifle will be shooting with a 15 grain pellet. So that's quite important. The thing that you can adjust though, and I think that that's critically important once again based on the target market, is the trigger. So the trigger is two-stage adjustable, and I think that's a fantastic feature of the rifle itself. Now, this rifle comes out of the box with a moderator, and on some rifles, especially in this price range, The moderator is just something that looks nice. Now I have to say that on this specific rifle, it makes a hell of a noise without that moderator. So it's actually a functional moderator that works extremely, extremely well. Now you'll see that this has been fitted with a scope. And in order to fit this scope, you actually have iron sights that the rifle comes with. Now, as soon as you start going onto YouTube and you start looking at how people get rid of that iron sight, you'll see that people blast it with blowtorches and they put it in warm water and all kinds of bullshit, which really is not necessary. All that you have to do is open the screw on top, flip the sight over, and just gently tap it out. It easily comes out of the slot so that you can get it back at a future stage. As well. We'll speak about this specific scope in a bit more detail, but let's just go through the rest of the rifle first. Now, this rifle comes with a 7 sort of pellet magazine. It also comes with a single loader. Now, in my personal opinion, it takes as long to load that 7 pellet magazine as it takes to shoot 7 pellets through this single loader. So you know, it's fun the first time and the second time, but after a while you'll realize that it's just easier to shoot with the single loader than what it is to turn the magazine anti-clockwise, put the first pellet in facing you, turn it around, put the rest of the pellets in. Nobody's got time for that. So I actually prefer this single loader. Now, one thing that's quite interesting, once again, if I look at the target market, this comes with a bolted charge handle. And the interesting thing for me is this is quite difficult to cock. The spring inside here is vicious. So one of the things that I have to do specifically with ladies and children is I have to tell them to take your thumb and just put it into this lovely thumb holder just underneath the bolt. I mean, you can literally see your thumb fits in there perfectly, and you use that as leverage. So if I just put my thumb in there and I just pull it in, it's extremely easy to actually cock it over, but you need that leverage. Otherwise, it is quite a difficult bolt to cock over. Now, if I look at the single tray, the first thing is that my thick fingers don't work well with single trays. They just don't. I put the pellets upside down, I put the pellets wrong way around, and that becomes quite a difficult thing to cope with. What I like about the single pellet tray is the fact that it's magnetic. So you'll actually see that I've just moved this to the side that allows me to put in the pellet. It doesn't just fall out because of the magnet that's holding it together. I can put the pellet in easily and just slide it back in. And it's as simple as that to get the pellet in. So for me, that's really a nice feature of this rifle. Now, you might wonder, well, if it's only got a 100cc cylinder and it's only going to give me 15 shots, surely that's a bad thing. Well, the thing that I can tell you is that with a 300 bar, 3 liter cylinder, you'll shoot for days and days because it's only a 100cc cylinder. So the nice thing about that is after every 20-25 rounds, you can physically go and refill it by using that 3 liter cylinder, and you'll shoot, like I say, for days. So also, if you multiply those 20 shots or 15 shots by 3 or by 5 in comparison to a 300cc or a 500cc cylinder, it's much of a muchness. You're still getting about 60, 70, maybe 80 shots out of that specific rifle with a bigger cylinder. So yeah, if I look at the safety feature, on the trigger itself, very simple to operate. So you know, I've got the ability to put it into fire. You'll see that I've got like a little red dot here that indicates that the rifle is now ready to fire. Obviously, if it isn't and I pull the trigger, there'll be no effect. I also have the ability to obviously decock this rifle. So if I just hold that back and I pull it forward, you'll actually see that the rifle is decocked. So that for me is also a very, very nice feature. Now I think I've covered everything about this rifle except for the shot count or for the shooting itself. So let's just speak about that for a second. I made a schoolboy error when I started shooting this rifle for this specific video. And the error that I made is while I was chroning this specific rifle, towards sort of the 30th shot, I decided to set in the scope, which means that I was already out of the regulator band, and therefore, you know, my shots were low for that matter. But I didn't know that because I was busy setting up the scope for that lower power shots that were going out. So when I shot this at 25 meters, you'll actually see in the video the confusion on my face as I shot probably about 10, 15 shots into the target and couldn't see where those shots were going. It was actually very frustrating, but I just figured, well, you know, let me just keep on shooting anyway. It turns out that it shot a very, very nice sort of 50-cent grouping at 25 meters. And because it was within the regulated band, it was shooting significantly high, so probably about that high. And the contrast in the specific target, as you can see, meant that I was shooting this zombie in the head in a gray spot that I couldn't see through the scope. So that's ultimately what happened. But after that, I transitioned to 40 meters and I shot a beautiful, beautiful grouping, like a one round grouping at 40 meters without adjusting anything. I literally just aimed at the target and did the shooting, and it was absolutely perfect. And I transitioned from that grouping onto the exploding target, which once again, you know, I didn't have to try much. I could just shoot the bird in the head and it exploded the first time. So from that perspective, extremely, extremely accurate, extremely, extremely consistent as long as you stay within that 15 to 20 shot range. As I mentioned, if you're going to use this for hunting or you're going to shoot doves or birds or rabbits or whatever you choose to shoot, this is a 5.5 mil, by the way, you've probably got about 40 good shots. I mean, the last bunch of shots, it was still doing it like 620, 650 feet per second, which isn't bad. So if you're shooting at like 50 meters, you can still get that done. But obviously, if you want to shoot well and you want to shoot groupings, you have to stay within that regulated space itself. Okay, great. So that's everything about this rifle. I think the last thing that I'll just mention is this is solid. I like this a lot. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel, you know, hollow. This is a good rifle, and I thoroughly enjoy shooting with this rifle at the rifle range. Now, let's just speak about the scope for a second. So this is the first time I've been introduced to the Marcool optics range. And once again, I asked Ian, what is a good value for money scope? And he said, well, this definitely has to go with the SnowPeak. There's a couple of things that I love about the scope, and there's a bunch of things that I hate about the scope. The things that I love about the scope is it comes with quite a few high-end features. So for example, my ability to zoom in, I've actually got this, what do you call this, knob? I think I'm a knob for saying knob, but in any case, it comes with with this lever in order to quickly adjust your distance. So for me, that's really, really a nice feature. It also comes with these flip-off covers, what you typically get in much more expensive scope ranges, and the view through the scope is crystal clear. I honestly, it's one of the best features of the scope is the fact that it is crystal clear. So that I love about the scope. Now, The next thing that I love about this is obviously the fact that it's got a side parallax, which is very, very easy to use and is highly, highly effective. So, you know, typically at this scope price range, you have to sit this at 50 meters if you shoot at 25, and you need to put it at 100 when you shoot at 40. This was precise. 25 meters, the reflection was 25. 40 meters, the reflection was just under 50. So from that perspective, the side parallax is actually fantastic as well. It also has the high-end feature in terms of if I wanted to make adjustments to the elevation, etc., you can pop this out and you can then make the changes that you need to make, and when you're done, you just pop it back. Now, if I compare this with my Sidewinder, that's got my Hawk Sidewinder, that's got exactly the same feature, but cost about 6 times the price, there's a vast, vast difference between the two. I didn't find this to be great, to be very honest. It pops out, but it doesn't stay popped out, especially when you start adjusting. It sort of pulls itself back, or I don't know if I just pull it back, but essentially it doesn't stay in this adjustable position. So I found that I struggled with that quite a few times, where I have to pop it out and pop it back in and sort of just go through that feature. But essentially, once you get that right, very, very accurate, very easy to set in. The second thing that I don't love about the scope is if I actually look at when I'm adjusting the scope, especially on my high-end scope. So I'm a huge Hawk fan. If I look at those scopes and I make adjustments to the scope, I can actually see the adjustments that I'm busy making. So I can see the sight going up and down, left and right. I struggled with this, so I didn't really see that. It would make the changes, but I couldn't really see the crosshairs moving up and down or left and right as I was trying to adjust it. Now, once again, I think that could just be me. I was shooting from a bag, which means I was trying to balance the rifle, etc. But that's typically, I struggled with that, and I struggled with that a few times. So for me, that was quite interesting to deal with. So what is my final conclusions about this rifle and this scope? The first thing that I will mention is if you are, sort of between the age of 5 and 18, this is the rifle for you. Yeah, you'll keep this rifle for many, many years. One thing that I have to mention before I forget is when you get this rifle, you definitely have to clean it out. So put a boar snake or something through the barrel, because it's filthy, and that filth affects your accuracy. It's just as simple as that. So you have to clean it out. That's essential to do when you get this rifle. But if I'm between like 5 and 18, this is definitely great value for money. If I shoot at school level, should I forget about getting a good CZ200 and rather buy this? No, definitely not. You definitely shouldn't do that. But if you want a rifle that's going to last you for years, that's pretty accurate, that's pretty consistent, this is definitely the rifle for you.
Your mama